Hello and welcome to India's World. More than 10,000 Indians have recently lost their jobs in Saudi Arabia, and many are marooned there, unable to feed themselves as they have not been paid their salary for months. Only when the Indian government started providing support to these stranded Indian citizens that an embarrassed Saudi Arabia offered to provide humanitarian aid and assistance for sending them back home to India. This situation is an indication of how the drop in global oil prices has affected the Arab world's largest economy and those dependent on it for their livelihood. Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Persian Gulf have been top destinations for millions of Indian workers for long. Most of them work in construction, transport and other low-paid industrial jobs. However, the drop in oil prices to around $50 a barrel for more than $100 a barrel barely 2 years ago has left countries like Saudi Arabia with large budget deficits and resulted in delayed payments to government contractors. Saudi Arabia has already announced budget cuts for 2016 to address an alarming deficit of 15% of the GDP. Subsidies for water, electricity and petroleum products are likely to be cut, and government projects are being curtailed. On the one hand, low oil prices are squeezing Saudi Arabia's domestic budget and imposing austerity on a society not used to it. On the other, they are taking their toll on immigrant workers, including the nearly 3 million Indian workers residing there. To discuss the economic crisis facing Saudi Arabia and its consequences, we have with us a very distinguished panel of experts. We have with us Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, a distinguished diplomat. He served as India's ambassador to Thailand and Bangladesh, a specialist in West Asia. He served as a diplomat in Indian diplomatic missions in Karachi, London, Cairo, Jeddah and Tel Aviv. He is also a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation in New Delhi. We have with us Mr. Kamar Aga, a distinguished journalist. He is an expert on West Asia again. And he was a visiting professor at Center for West Asian Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. We are also lucky to have with us Dr. Zakir Hussain. He is a research fellow at the Indian Council for World Affairs and author of a new book on Saudi Arabia. A political economist, his research focuses not only on West Asia but also China and Pakistan. I welcome you gentlemen to this discussion. Pinak, let me begin with you. This is something that I have not understood. Why didn't India or Indian diplomats in Saudi Arabia see this crisis coming? After all, one of the companies involved, Saudi bin Laden, for example, in May itself had laid off 40% of its workforce, 90,000 workers. There were riots in the city of Mecca where the company's vehicles were burnt. Similarly, the second company, Saudi Ogre, had sacked workers but was allowing them to live in their camps and supplying them food. Only when they stopped supplying food that this crisis became apparent. My question to you is, why didn't we see this crisis coming earlier? But if you look at what the economists were saying all over the world, they were saying this is going to happen. Why were Indians ignorant?
No, I don't think Indians were ignorant. I'm sure the reports were coming in, trickling into MEA and saying that this is likely to happen, because these are these kind of developments are followed very avidly by our embassies and posts in Saudi Arabia. And the workers' welfare and other things usually get very high priority. I have myself been a diplomat in Saudi Arabia, and I know we used to go and inspect many of the labor camps just to see how they are and get to know them, and also to see their conditions. So it's not that we didn't know. The question is, when they were there, many of the workers, by the way, this is a sentiment that is very prevalent there, they don't want to come back because they think that somehow things will improve, they will get their wages back, and many of them had not got their wages. So they don't want to come back unless their wages are paid, and moreover, come back to what? Because they don't have jobs waiting for them here. So this is a sentiment you have to understand and respect, that they send remittances, so they are dependent on these jobs. Many of them have paid vast amounts of money to get the job in terms of paying agency fees and various other things. So it's not that, but it's a much broader macro problem here.
Okay. Now, this macro problem of Saudi Arabia's economic crisis, or let's not call it a crisis, let's say the need for restructuring of Saudi Arabia's economy has been apparent for a long time. Do you think that suddenly this picture that appeared even in Arab newspapers of workers lining up for food doles and so on and so forth has given a human face to the Saudi crisis? Up to now, it was just figures, 15% budgetary deficit, this plan and that plan, and this is what will oil revenue and non-oil revenue, which most people don't understand. But they understand hunger, they understand unemployment, they understand the fact that here's a state that's apathetic to them.
You see, this is not happening for the first time, as you mentioned, earlier also. It's a cycle every 10 years we have seen. We have been witnessing this, every 10 years what happens, they take an excuse, remove the old workers and get fresh ones with the lesser pay. So that has been going on for almost 15, 20 years. This time it's more, or what has happened, because the company ran away. The management wasn't there, because they were expecting that they will get back the money, they'll get back and then come back, So it's now the money, which is, the salaries are stuck there. So that is the main problem, First they stopped serving the food also, then they cut the medical supplies, everything was stopped there,
And didn't give them exit visas either, because Saudi
Exit
Arabia
visa
requires an
they have
exit
to get,
visa.
only then they can come back. Even if they, without the visas, they cannot come back. Saudi rules are such. Then, there is another problem. They don't have labor unions. They don't have labor, their labor laws are very strict. It's basically controlled by it's in favor of the employers. So these are the problems, perennial problems, which all over the Gulf, the workers are facing. So once you are caught, then you don't have that major problem comes.
All right. Dr. Zakir Hussain, why has Saudi Arabia come out so badly in this humanitarian crisis? It took the Saudi king 1 week to offer to give food to these people who are hungry or supply them with water. And that too when Saudi Arabia was embarrassed because India started supplying food and water to these workers.
To my understanding that this problem, of course, they are, perhaps they take foreign workers, particularly those who are working in blue-collar jobs, taken for granted. And but this time the crisis is more generated by economic. What Ambassador said, that it is our lack of interest to resolve the problem and look the interest of the worker, because that economy is going down because of two reasons.
Yeah, but I was not, I'll come to the economy. I was merely saying that does the apathy of Saudi Arabia, does it reflect a cultural narrowness of Saudi society where foreign workers are looked at, somewhat less than resident citizens?
They treat with a substandard system to the foreign workers, particularly the blue-collar workers and those who are going from South Asia. They have categorized workers into various different, like suppose that French workers also suffered. When French embassy consulted them, they took speedy action and resolved their problem. Likewise, the Philippines, when took action, they resolved it. But our workers were not that much fortunate to be listened by them, because somewhere I find that embassy is also not active. Just Philippines embassies are, because if you take the relief measure given by Philippines, they have given $36 million to their workers. We have just only supplied the food in that way. So our embassy staff is also not sensitive to that extent to put the cause of the workers in Saudi Arabia. Of course, these blue-collar workers are treated in a substandard manner.
Do you agree with him?
Well, not entirely. I mean, you can't expect me to agree to that.
You're no longer in service.
No, it's all right. No, but I've been there. I know. It's not that we are not sensitive or our embassies are not sensitive. Don't forget, the embassies don't also have the wherewithal.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless the government of India steps in and gives them the financial, resources, where will they get it?
Absolutely. I was only pulling your leg. Okay.
No,
we need to take a break at this point. We'll be back again in a bit. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're discussing the economic crisis in Saudi Arabia and its possible consequences. Kamar, did the present crisis begin with the collapse of oil prices, or does it have older antecedents? Was it not obvious for a long time that over-dependence on oil would eventually force a diversification of the economy, some rationalization, job cuts?
They have been talking for almost 5 or 6 years, they'll diversify. King Abdullah was the first, who comes up with the plan. But it wasn't implemented. It was not only the oil crisis, but the war in Yemen also contributed in this crisis. Huge amount of, the defense expenditure has gone up to many. They're the second largest defense buyer at present. Then oil prices have come down, almost 50%, more than 50%. It's now selling at $50 plus. Earlier it was from 120 come down to this level. The deficit is almost more than $100 billion already, in this year, and then the alternate source of revenues are hardly there. They have planned, now they have planned that they will retrench these workers. They will go into some new, they have already committed some funding in the private sector. Jobs would be created, almost 4.5 lakh jobs they are going to create in next 3 to 4 or 5 years, mostly in the private sector, not in the government side. They're going to cut the government jobs also to large number, And situation is, not only Indians are being retrenched, the Saudi nationals are being retrenched, large number, they have been cut down. They have planned also to reduce, introduce subsidies, which you have cut down subsidies, introduce taxes, and plus, they have also cut down salaries of many people, many sectors. But these are 3 sectors which are most important, where Indians are suffering. The one is most important among them is construction, which has suffered maximum. Second is, the manufacturing, that is not much. And third is service sector, that is continuing.
Okay. Dr. Zakir Hussain, whatever Qamar Agha said, are they reflective of this ambitious long-term Vision 2030 reform program of the Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman? And they also have a medium-term national transformation plan which says that non-oil revenue will treble by 2020. So how do you see these things panning out? What kind of pain would that entail?
For the last 7 decades, Saudi Arabia has been dependent on oil. And it has contributed a lot to their economy, society, political stability, and everything. But suddenly, the new prince, Deputy Crown Prince, announced Vision 2030, in which he has said that Saudi Arabia is going to stay without oil, and it will maintain the status quo of its economy, which is, of course, by looking the structure which is dependent on rentier economy and Dutch disease, is there no diversification, etc. It is a very painful thing. All over the world, this policy is being seen with suspicion whether the economy, which is the largest one in the Arab countries, will be able to survive without oil, which is contributing 45% to the GDP, 80% of government expenditure, 85% to the export revenue. So what I think that the present crisis is an indication that in future Saudi Arabia is not going to remain what it has been earlier. It is going to curtail investment on the one hand, on the other hand it is going to diversify, and third front, that how it is going to conclude its conflict within its neighbor, which is eating out its cash, which was $500 billion, which earned during the.
Let me take that question of the region to Pinak. So, Pinak, do you think that Saudis are actually victims of their own aspirations in the region? Because what prevented you from raising oil prices and continuing overproduction? It was basically the attitude of beggar thy neighbor vis-a-vis Iran. So, this Iran-Saudi competition, to what extent has this contributed to Saudi economy facing the kind of troubles it is facing today?
You see, firstly, fundamentally, the Saudi economy was not a normal economy like any other country. It was dependent so much on oil revenues, no taxation, no customs duty or very minimal kind of customs duty. So the only revenue the government ever had was basically from this, and some from Hajj and things like that. So this kind of an economy where the population is getting free
then
water.
Why overproduce oil?
No, I'm coming to that. The point is that if you realize that you are dependent so much on oil, the question is, why did you go for this kind of politics which led to the downslide? But don't forget that the Saudis do not have full control over the oil market. The shale oil revolution in USA led to large amounts of production there, and the USA now does not buy any oil from the Middle East.
But shale oil companies are shutting down now because of low oil prices.
That's
so
what
you
happened.
Finish them off, then raise the prices
again. The geo-economic aspect of it was कि somehow hit Russia and Iran as well. Their oil productions, their revenues will go down, and it has happened. And Saudi Arabia thought by reducing these oil prices, it would retain its market share. It started giving oil at lower prices. That led to a slide in the prices, or there was oversupply, and demand was not picking up. After all, climate change and other things had reduced demand to some extent.
But let me take this to Qamar. Qamar, how difficult would it be for Saudi Arabia to restructure its economy? Because oil price collapse has coincided with slowdown in the global economy. Not only climate change and renewables being preferred, but also there is a general slowdown.
No, one thing is definitely, they don't have alternative sorts of revenues. Even whatever the plans have come, they cannot implement. The industrialization is not possible. For that, you have to have some scientific temper that is missing there. Number one. Number two, they don't have technical manpower in that country. Very minimum. Third thing, that oil prices are not going to go up because a lot of oil is available in the market. Iranian oil is already coming into the market. Iraqi oil is going to come into the market. The prices was higher mainly because of two things, overproduction, and second thing, sanctions, American sanctions on Iran and war in Iraq. These were the things, responsible for the war. So oil, we have enough oil in the market at the moment, and it is not going to go up, So they will have to think how they are going to manage, The main plan is investment in outside countries like India, whose economies are booming, India, China, and some other countries, where they have planned to invest. So that is one of the reasons, our relations with Saudi Arabia has improved.
Well, that's one reason why they should have taken care of our workers on day one and not waited for 1 week.
They have taken mainly because of this. Otherwise, they would have not responded. They wouldn't have responded. Mainly because
I think they were shamed into it.
No, they have given a highest award to our Prime Minister. That is another term.
It's okay, but
Not the one.
That's no consolation to all those people who are dying of hunger.
But you're right. I think there was an element of embarrassment.
Exactly. Anyway, we need to take a break at this point. We'll be back again with this discussion in a bit. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're discussing the economic crisis in Saudi Arabia and its possible consequences. Dr. Zakir Hussain, do you think that the cuts impacting on ordinary Saudis because of this economic crisis is something that the Saudi regime would want to avoid? Because the more you cut subsidies, the more you impact ordinary Saudi citizens, the more are the chances of political instability in Saudi Arabia. Therefore, do you think that the people who will be the real targets or who will have to bear the brunt of all the economic restructuring would really be the guest workers, the immigrant workers?
Yes, of course, you are right here that the authoritarian government has some sort of contract with the public, their own citizens, that I will provide you free buys and you will support me. No taxation without representation theory is there. Of course, one of the policies of the government is to retrench the foreign workers, but they are not in such a condition to retrench overall. They have to be very selective because they want industrialization, diversification. For this, they lack the effective and quality workers of their own, and they need foreign work. They have to depend on foreign workers.
So are you therefore saying that the character of workers will change?
It will change, and in this, if India wants to maintain its dominance, 33 million out of 9 million are Indians there. Then India has to map out the labor markets of Saudi Arabia and even GCC. Then train its worker and maintain its dominance in the rich Gulf countries. And that's why I am telling that the nature of the Gulf labor market is changing and their economic situation is changing. The Indian government and the embassies are not doing thorough work to understand these trends. And according to that, they should compensate the labor supply. That's why I feel that the problem lies more with Indians than others, because everybody, it is a common nature that they employ, they want to suck more. This is happening everywhere in the world, even in America and other places. So it is our duty, it is the duty of the embassy staff to read, and I feel that there should be migration resource centers in GCC country. There is none missing it, and they should, if we want to continue longer in their labor market, there should be a migration resource center, and they should make a study and give reports to the government. On that basis, labor supply should be done.
No, that's a fair point. Kamar, why are only Indian workers being affected, or are we highlighting only the case of Indian workers? Because 3 million Indian workers, they say, are there. Pakistan has 1.5 million immigrant workers in Saudi Arabia. Nepal has 600,000 workers in Saudi Arabia. In Nepal, all the recruitment centers for Saudi Arabian companies have shut down. So there must be Bangladeshis also, Sri Lankans also there. Why aren't we hearing anything about it, and why aren't we coordinating with these countries? Is there any possibility of trying to see what can be done together?
You know, in the past we have coordinated sometime, you know, not with Pakistanis but others. We helped Pakistani also in Yemen crisis. Evacuation, you know. You know, situation is not that bad still, you know, because most of the people are getting salaries and coming back. In this particular case, this 10,000, you know, 7,500 basically, these are the workers, you know, they were not paid and they didn't have money to come back. So suddenly this problem appear. Otherwise, you know, it is not there. In the case of Bangladeshi or in the case of other things, you know, there may be many of them they are there, you know, but it was not reported, not much reported. We have a free media.
Because we have the largest number.
Second thing, you know, we have a we get almost $30 billion remittances, and then we have a trade of about $25 billion with Saudi Arabia.
So what's happening in Saudi Arabia affects India, and particularly those states of India which send large number of people to Saudi Arabia, like Kerala, for example.
Kerala. Then second thing, you know, we, as far as his thing is concerned, what he has raised just now, you know, Indian market is fully geared to take the next step, you know, or the new, or the technical people, you know, we have abundant here, you know.
Are we geared up to take back these 3 million workers who are unskilled, who work in construction industry?
That's a problem, you know, to get back here, you know. But not all. Problem is coming not only in all the workers, you know, these are unskilled workers.
That's what,
and especially
I understand that. I'm merely saying we have a skilled workforce, but do we have jobs for unskilled workforess that will be thrown out of Saudi Arabia?
Here also the problem is here also, you know, the construction industry is not booming in India.
Well,
in India, the problem is, you know.
Yeah.
So that is a problem.
So this is a big issue.
They'll not get a job immediately, you know. So they'll go back, you know, after a while.
Now, Pinak, can the other countries of the Middle East remain isolated from the fallout of the economic crisis of Saudi Arabia?
No, I don't think so. I think you are going to see this happen in all the countries which are dependent on oil wealth. I think it has already started in UAE, and it will soon affect the others, the other sheikdoms, you know, the smaller ones, Bahrain and others. But in a lesser extent, because the numbers are not that large. But Saudi Arabia is the largest number, and it has happened in huge companies like Bin Laden, and which used to be the major contractor for all the royal family and all the construction, major construction projects. Now, it is the question about rehabilitation and how to reabsorb them, the workers back. Obviously, the government of India is not going to say, oh, come back, we have jobs for you. The government of India or the Indian economy is itself grappling with, you know, how to create more employment, more jobs. All the programs are there.
No, but Pinak, these things don't happen through voluntary offers. You know, if they come back, they will be part of the Indian job market. They'll have to find jobs for themselves. But there are
because
no
there
jobs.
is no way the government will provide special privileges to these people.
I understand that.
In the Indian market, they can't.
My question was, is the Indian economy poised to absorb those workers?
No.
I don't think
the answer is no, because some of them who have the necessary skills or who were having jobs here and left those jobs to get the higher paying job, they will probably find some jobs here.
Mostly we observed that during the Gulf crisis, Kerala workers returned back, and they were more interested to establish their own setups. In that, we suggested that government should provide economic assistance and all sorts of assistance which can assist them to, because the nature of work is quite different there, and here they cannot fit in. It is a psychological
Do you
effect.
see any movement on part of government of India to prepare to deal with the crisis that is taking place in West Asia? But that is my question.
Till now, I have not seen.
Okay.
But government should be conscious of this, because this is going to become a contagious disease in the region, because all the oil-dependent countries will, in the coming 5 to 6 years, I don't see that oil prices will go up.
Okay, now we are running out of, we have just 1 minute, Kamar. So my question to you is, what will be the political impact of this crisis? Because unemployment is not going to be limited only to foreign workers. You've said it's already that Saudi workers are also losing their jobs. What impact will this have on the internal stability of Saudi Arabia and on the House of Saud, which has had this compact with the people that they will throw money at them and in return they will get support? Once you're unable to throw money at them, you lose that support. So what happens to Saudi monarchy?
You know, the problem is already there in Saudi Arabia. Dissents are there. Large number of Saudis have already joined ISIS or Al Qaeda. They are fighting in Iraq and Yemen and many other countries. You know, there are, you know, once the pressure is already coming on Iraq and Syria. So there are there are reports which suggest that they'll return, they'll come back to Saudi Arabia.
What happens then?
The big problem is coming. Then second thing, you know, unemployment is growing in Saudi Arabia. There is other thing, you know, there is a crisis within the House of Saud. That is more significant, you know. There is
We'll have to leave that for another discussion, but there is trouble ahead internally for Saudi Arabia. On that note, we have to end this discussion. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Kamar Aga, Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti for participating in this discussion. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week as usual. Till then, goodbye and thanks for watching India's World.